And the only reason why you want their confidence first is because initially when they give you their attention, us as humans, we're trying to decipher whether or not to give more attention. It's kind of like when we watch TV shows, or when we watch movies, or we watch previews, or we watch videos, or we listen to music. We're trying to immediately identify whether or not this is worth more attention. And so we got to think about, even in courting, right? Like, so you get a little bit of attention, you kind of assess the situation, and you try to decipher whether or not you should give more attention. So we're naturally wired this way. So the title of this video is going to be, It's All in the Climax. And when I'm talking about it's all in the climax, I'm not talking about sexual interactions. I'm talking about the sale interaction. You see, I believe that one of the most popular misconceptions that salespeople have is that the close part of the process is probably the hardest. The hardest thing to do is to close. When in all reality, closing in itself is just part of the process. It should not be the hardest part. You see, I think that if we understood that it's not the close that is the hardest part, it's actually getting the prospect up to a climatic state, and I hope that's a word, a climatic state, to the point where they feel it emotionally. Now let me explain. You see, there's a process to every sales cycle. It's kind of like sexual intercourse, right? In order to reach a climax, you got to go through certain things. You can't just necessarily start and then you're immediately in climax. You know what I mean? So if you really break it down, there's a process. In some cases, of course, you would call it foreplay. Well, sales in essence is kind of like that. Like, the foreplay part of it is just kind of extracting out the emotional peaks, right? How do I get you there? How do I make you juicy? You see what I'm saying? How do I get you aroused? And the sales process in itself, the primary objective is to get you at a climatic state so that you're ready. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're ready to burst. And if you think about it that way, as weird as it sounds, it kind of makes sense, because in order to kind of get the prospect to give you their all in, right, you got to finesse them. And so where I think a lot of salesmen have this misconception is that the close in itself, we'll just call it the bust, is the hardest part, because you got to work to get there. In some cases, some of y'all, it's not the hardest part. But in the sales aspect, in order for them to give you their agreement, to give you their commitment, they have to first reach that climatic state. And so then the question is, okay, well, D, how do I get them to that climatic state? Well, there's a couple steps within the process in order to even get them to that climatic state. And that involves, first off, them giving you their attention. Much like when we're courting or we're trying to find that partner, we can't necessarily get them unless we have their attention, right? But when you get their attention, does that mean that you give them all your full attention? Like, you're all over them? Like, you're dry humping their leg? No, right? You almost got to act as if you don't really care that you got their attention. And that's where the consultant versus salesman aspect comes in. You see, a consultant is not necessarily going to give you their full attention like they're trying to sell you on something. A consultant is a professional. A consultant understands that what they have, you need. You get it? And so that inner confidence separates them from salesmen. But nonetheless, you still need that person's attention. So you're getting the attention first by marketing, whether it's telemarketing, outbound calls, inbound calls, internet marketing, whatever it is, right? Somehow you got a piece of their attention. And then the next step is that you need to capture their confidence. And the only reason why you want their confidence first is because initially when they give you their attention, us as humans, we're trying to decipher whether or not to give more attention. It's kind of like when we watch TV shows, or when we watch movies, or we watch previews, or we watch videos, or we listen to music. We're trying to immediately identify whether or not this is worth more attention. And so we got to think about, even in courting, right? Like, so you get a little bit of attention, you kind of assess the situation, and you try to decipher whether or not you should give more attention. So we're naturally wired this way. And reason why we need to attain confidence first is because confidence is basically the prospect saying, okay, I'm gonna give you more attention. What do you got? It's almost like curiosity, interest. And so the question is, well, how do I do that? Well, the answer is that you need to understand your prospect. And the only way to really understand your prospect is you need to be empathetic. And if you're empathetic and you understand the commonalities of most prospects, that they don't want to be sold, they don't want to pay the high price, they don't want to, give time unless it's warranted, then we can kind of teeter off that wavelength. And so if we can immediately craft our words, our message, like the sales script that I give you, for example, right? And I give a free sales script to anyone who wants it, which I highly recommend you get it, especially if you're in sales. You can get a copy at salesremastered.com. There's a link below this video or in my bio, and it goes to my website, salesremastered.com. And as long as you put in your personal email address, the primary email address you get on your phone, you'll get a copy immediately. And then you can already read and understand the concept of what I'm talking about today. But the reason why you want to capture more interest and more time is because you need to finesse them. You need to get to that foreplay state, right? Because without that foreplay state, you can't necessarily work them up to where they're at the climatic state. And until they're at that climatic state, you can't necessarily close, i.e. bust. Make sense? And so as you capture more of the attention, then what you need to do is open them up. And here comes the foreplay state. Foreplay state is you got to do things that they like. So then the question is, okay, well, D, what do they like? Well, what they like are things that are about them. What they like is when they feel that you're actually providing specific value that applies to them. You're not just applying general value, right? Just like sometimes when you're, during the intercourse and you're going through foreplay, not everyone likes certain things, but you need to understand, you need to kind of read the body language. You need to read the quivers. You need to understand through past experience that, hey man, I probably, maybe I did this one time, that just didn't work out well. I'm not going to do that again. Right. And so it's really just learning through repetition. But when you find that quiver, or when you find that pain or that pleasure, then you start to zero in on that. And then you start to almost take it away to the point where they want it even more. You get it? And I know I'm referencing and I'm kind of comparing it. You probably never heard sales be compared to sexual intercourse before. So this is about creative as you can get. But I think that any single one of us, especially watching this video, can kind of relate and be like, oh, I get it now. And if that causes that one little spark and it makes sense and it connects, then you're going to treat every little sales interaction a little bit differently. You're going to understand that it requires foreplay, it requires finessing, it requires kind of that attention to detail, that you're looking for that quiver. You're looking to make them kind of want more. And if you can get them to want more, then you get control. But the only way that they want more is it's tailored to them and their specific needs. You're reading their chemistry. Does that make sense? And so when you get into that climatic state, this is why it's not hard to get the close, because the close is really, again, just the bust. Because when you're in that state, it's like you're ready. You know what I mean? Like, slide it to the side. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Like, the close is the easiest part when you get it to that point, right? Like, it's on, bro. And so anyway, why I think that there's this common misconception that the close part of the sale is the hardest is because if you're having that issue, like, man, you can go through the process and you're just having a problem converting, or you're having a problem closing, you got to check your foreplay. If you look throughout the kind of work backwards, you look throughout the sales process or the pieces that actually led up to that part of the sale, where you're trying to close them, you're trying to get that commitment, you're going to notice that maybe you didn't do the foreplay right. Maybe you didn't get their attention. You didn't get them juicy, right? And if you can find out where you're missing within the finessing or the foreplay aspect of it, maybe you didn't pay attention to the quivers. Maybe you didn't necessarily, touch places or spaces that really meant a lot. and so then you got to learn from it. And so the next time you go into that finessing aspect, or that sales conversation, or that building of rapport, or that foreplay state of the sale, where you're trying to get all their emotional pieces out and trying to make them feel you get it? Then you'll kind of pick up on the things that you might be missing. It may very well be that your approach wasn't necessarily tailor fit to them, but it's very generic. Or maybe, like, you didn't necessarily take your time on certain areas of the sale or the body in that particular reference, right? And just because you didn't do that, they weren't necessarily ready. They weren't ready to reach that climatic state. And that's really what it's all about, is you got to get them that climatic state. And so anyway, I hope it all made sense to you. And if it did, comment below. Let me know if it did. And if not, you know, get a copy of the sales script. It'll make sense. Go to salesremaster.com, request a copy. Again, use your personal email address. Your work email is going to bounce it back. Your personal email address that you get on your phone. And check out the script. There's a ton of value in there. It's not only inbound, outbound scripts, but I even got a perfect script for those of you hunting realtor referrals. I got the perfect realtor script in there. I've gotten so many comments back and say, man, that realtor script alone's got me so many appointments. It's got me so many opportunities, and I wanted to do the same for you. But also, I'm gonna provide you a video library of some very, very helpful content pieces, so that way you don't need to search through all 700 videos on the YouTube channel. There'll be a link directly to it. And I hope it helps you today earn a couple extra more sales. I'll see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you guys' attention. I'll see you next. Bye.